Hi, in today's video, we'll be giving you 5 ways to move through the pandemic with calm. Hi, my name is Reena and welcome to my channel, which focuses on high vibrational living as we move through the new consciousness. We've been getting a lot of questions from people around us about this particular pandemic that we're going through. Now, I am not mentioning the name of the pandemic because of some of YouTube's rules and regulations. So just know that we're talking about the current pandemic that we're going through at this point in time in 2020. So let's talk about what's happening. Over the past few videos, I keep talking about how we are moving into a new consciousness. And when we are moving into a new consciousness, we are being bombarded by high vibrational energy that's amplifying the intensity of the vibration of Earth and of the global consciousness and of all of us who live on this earth. In the past few months, there have been more and more intense energies that have been coming through to really amplify the vibrations of the earth. And the reason why this is happening is because it just wants to move into a different consciousness at a different vibration. So I have talked a lot about this in my previous videos, which you can access through YouTube, but just to give you a little background about it, as we're moving into the new consciousness, it's about increasing the vibration. So in the old consciousness, let's say the vibration has been moving like this. In the new consciousness, the vibration is moving like that. And you can imagine it is like water and boiling water. When water is at the normal temperature, it's very still, it's very calm, and very little is being disturbed in the pot. But once you start to boil the water, everything starts to bubble. Things will start coming up. And so that's basically what's happening at this moment, vibrationally speaking, to the global consciousness. And so everything that goes into the global consciousness gets amplified. And what do I mean by everything that goes into the global consciousness? We are all linked to the global consciousness. So whatever we think, whatever we feel is fed into the global consciousness. And because we are all linked via the global consciousness, vibrationally speaking, think about it like ripples in a water, right? If you drop something in some water, the ripples will just start spreading and covering a wider area. And so what will happen is when people are in separate areas and they feel the ripple, then they will be affected by that particular vibration. And then they will start creating their own ripple effect, which will affect the other people around them. And what is it that causes the ripples? Our thoughts and our emotions. So if we pump in quite a lot of fear into the global consciousness, the fear will just ripple out. If we pump in quite a lot of joy in the global consciousness, then joy will just ripple out. And as the global consciousness is vibrating at such a high rate, everything that we pump in gets amplified. So the ripples get bigger and bigger and more intense. So what has happened with this particular virus? This particular virus has come quite suddenly. Very few people were actually prepared for it. And so because it has come quite suddenly and it seemed to be quite a new virus, there is a lot of fear associated with it. And the fear is associated with the unknown because nobody knows, number one, how they're going to contract it, And number two, how we're going to heal from it. Because it is an unknown factor. And every time there is something that is unknown, that is a potential threat to life, we will feel fearful because it's part of our psyche, it's part of surviving something that is perceived to be a threat to life. And notice that I mentioned perceive, because at the end of the day, this is our perception. But I do not want to dismiss what is happening at the global consciousness level, because so many people are feeling fear. I don't want to dismiss the fear, because everything here is an unknown. And also, everything feels really chaotic. Our normal lives have been suspended due to the actions of leaders, governments, experts in the field. They have taken very, very strong precautionary measures to mitigate the spread of this particular virus. And again, because we as a collective have not experienced this within our own lifetime, it's causing a lot of fear. It's causing a lot of trepidation. And so what is happening is all this fear and trepidation is going into the global consciousness, and it's being amplified as well. This can be seen with the whole toilet paper experience that we have noticed. Initially, when China was in the throes of the virus, there was a limitation on toilet paper. The reason for this in China, in Hong Kong, and in a lot of the Asian countries is because the factories that were making toilet paper switched to making face masks. And so there was a decreased supply of toilet paper. However, this panic buying extended to parts of the Western world. In the Western world, the factories that were making toilet paper were still making toilet paper. So it wasn't a supply-demand effect. So I'm a student of psychology, and I love observing people's behaviors because they tell a lot about people. And they tell a lot about the global consciousness. And so I was observing this entire experience around the toilet paper because the people who were panic buying toilet paper were clearly motivated by a primal instinct to survive. There was no logical reasoning behind the impulse to hoard toilet paper. And so I was observing this and I was thinking to myself, okay, now if I was filled with panic and if I wanted to hoard something for my survival, I would probably go for food and for water. So I didn't quite understand this urgency to accumulate and hoard toilet paper. And then I realized I had an insight the other day. In developmental psychology, one of the developmental phases is called the anal phase. Freud also has something called the anal stage in his psychosexual developmental stages as well. No, but what I'm talking about is just developmental psychology when we work with children. Anal stage is when children will start to perceive their environment in a way in which they can control it or not control it. Before the anal stage is the oral stage. And this is where, if a child needs milk, they cry. If a child needs to sleep, they cry. If a child has soiled themselves, they cry. And so normally with parents, they will go and actually look at the children and they will give the child exactly what they need. So as a child develops and they hit that anal stage, that is when they are trying to see the world in a different way, where not everything is given to them, not all their needs are being met by mother and father. So it's about working through the anal stage, which is about control. They start learning how to control or be in control of the environment, purely from a primal response of surviving. And then we look at spiritual psychology as well. And with spiritual psychology, there is something that we call the base chakra or the root chakra. And the root chakra is around this area. And the root chakra is all about security. If someone doesn't feel secure enough for a prolonged period of time, then what will happen is the energy within the root chakra will get blocked up. And so there is a need to control the environment as well. And toilet paper is a physical manifestation of ensuring that this particular area is kept clean, that it is kept safe. So what's happened with the entire toilet paper episode is that people would bulk buy because they don't feel secure, and there is a need to feel in control of the environment, especially in an environment that nobody knows very much about, and so people feel that there is a loss of control. Again, this is all motivated by very pure, basic instinct of survival. There is very, very little logical rationale behind the hoarding of the toilet paper. It's an emotional reaction to what is happening. The amount of fear in the global consciousness around this particular virus is phenomenal. And what happens with the global consciousness when there is this amount of fear running through it is that people receive almost like an energetic shock, which leads to transformation. So the analogy I would use there would be, let's say, you drink quite a lot of coffee in your entire life, and then one day you decide you're going to go on a coffee detox. And so the first day you stop drinking coffee, your body goes into a slight shock. You start getting all these symptoms, feel very confused, very discombobulated, because your body that's used to the caffeine suddenly decides that it's not going to have any caffeine. And it's a shock. It's a shock to the system. But it's with the shock to the system, then comes transformation at a global level. So a lot of this virus, a lot of the action behind the virus is part of the shift to the new consciousness. At a practical level, it's helping us see how our healthcare system works. It helps us see how our global supply system works. There is such a big impact on the economy, and so it's helping us see and understand how the economics, how the world's global economic system works as well. When we can see these systems with new eyes that we have been taking for granted for a long time, then we can put measures in place to protect us from something like this happening again. And that is the new that we can create as we move into the new consciousness. So before I move into tips and techniques that can help us retain our high vibrational level and move through this pandemic with relative calm, I just have to say as well that one of the most important things to do is to get full figures and full data of what is happening. There are lots and lots of stories in the mass media, and a lot of those stories have got high levels of fear factor in them. However, this is a particular newspaper that I've been following for a while. It's called the South China Morning Post, and it's published in Hong Kong. The reason why I follow this particular newspaper is because I was born in Malaysia, and before coming to the UK, I called Singapore my home. And you can take the girl out of Asia, can't take Asia out of the girl. And so I like to read the South China Morning Post or glance through the news in the South China Morning Post just to keep me updated with what's happening in Asia. Now, the minute this particular virus spread in China, they had this really amazing live graphic where they looked at the number of people who have the virus, the number of deaths, but more importantly, they have the number of survivors. And you can see that the number of survivors clearly outweigh the number of people who have died of this virus. Many of the other outlets only focus on transmission, which is the number of people who have the virus, and on death. Very few outlets give you the data for the number of people who have recovered from this particular virus. And these are people who have recovered without needing that new vaccine that they're currently developing. They have recovered from this just by the strength of the immune system in their bodies, and as well as they've been fed intravenously. What I've read in the reports is when they went to the hospitals, they were given intravenously fluid and pure vitamin C, just to help increase the body's immunity to be able to combat the virus. So every day I have been looking at this particular bit of data, and I have been noticing that the number of people who have recovered have been increasing exponentially. And then you can also notice on the right side of the screen the countries and the number of people who have contracted the virus and the number of people who have died as well. So if you wish to get real lifetime updates about the people who have been affected by this virus, I would really recommend that you go to the South China Morning Post. I follow them on Facebook, and so I get some of the articles on Facebook. I also get Apple News, so they kind of pop up on Apple News as well. But it is on Facebook that I get the real-time measure of what's happening with the virus. It gives you a really nice balanced view. So how then can we navigate this pandemic with calm and also keep our vibrations up? I'm going to give you 5 tips, but I must say that these are not exhaustive tips at all. You'll be able to develop your own tips as we move forward as well. So the first tip is to take precautionary measures to ensure that our immunity is high. So our bodies and our immune system are actually much stronger than we think they are. If you think about it, we have gone through many episodes of flu, many episodes of, chickenpox and appendicitis and tonsillitis and all the different itises. And we're still going strong. When we get ill, we rest, and then our body is an amazing virus-fighting machine. And so all we need to do is help the immune system of our bodies. And we can use these very simple and powerful ways to do this. The first thing to do is to ensure that our level of vitamin C is kept at a high level. So you can get vitamin C from quite a lot of produce. You can get it from guavas, you can get it from oranges, you can get it from kiwis, you can get them from strawberries, and you can get them from bell peppers. There is so many fruits and vegetables out there that contain high levels of vitamin C. Vitamin C just helps build the strength of our immunity and supports our immunity as well. And I would recommend getting more of the organic produce, if you've got high vibrational organic produce, that's even better, because that will keep your vibration level at a different resonance to that of the virus. And so everything at the end of the day is energetic, and it'll be very, very difficult for the virus to be able to penetrate your energetic body. The second thing that I would recommend that we all eat quite a lot of, and some of you may groan, is garlic. Garlic is one of the strongest, most healing food that I know of. I use a lot of garlic in our food. So I am not so fond of the pungent flavors of a full clove of garlic or a full pip of garlic. So what I do is I mince the garlic. I chop it up into tiny, tiny pieces, or I use a garlic mincer, and then I just put it in my food. So what you get is the raw, potent potential of the garlic and a really nice flavor. It flavors the food really well. It sort of works on my palate, but I know I'm not going to take a big bite of a clove of garlic accidentally. But if you eat more garlic in your food, if you put more garlic in your food, this will help boost your immune system as well. The third way to boost immunity is to just get as much sunshine as possible. The sun is very healing. It is an incredible source of vitamin D, and there is just a pleasantness when you're out in the sun. So if you live in a country where you can have quite a lot of access to the sun, and even if you're isolated, I would suggest that you go out and you spend a little bit of time in the sun, or you can sit in your balcony or by your window, open the window, and just feel the rays of the sun on your face and on your bodies. We are very fortunate. We live in a beautiful countryside, and Andy, my husband, loves working in the garden. And I love to go for long walks. There are beautiful places that you can hike in this countryside, go for nice long walks. And so that is how we get our sun. The fourth way to boost your immune system is to just enable more and more fresh air to waft through the area of which you live in. This gets rid of any stale energy, any stale remnants in your house. So just make sure you open a couple of windows here and there throughout your day. If you live in a place where you've got heating circulating through your house or AC circulating through your house, it might be an idea to turn it off for a little while and just enable just fresh air to come through, just to get rid of unwanted fragments and just bring in that crisp, fresh air. The fifth thing that I would recommend you to do is to be next to greenery. Trees have an amazing ability to suck up all the carbon dioxide in the environment around them and to give out oxygen. And it's pure oxygen. So the more we can inhale a lot of the pure oxygen, it strengthens our entire immune system. It strengthens our lungs as well. And as we know, this particular virus hits the lungs. So you may not have a garden, that's okay. You may live in a flat, that's okay. But even in a flat, I would recommend that you actually get a plant, a green plant into your house. Place it next to where you sit during the day, and then sit next to this plant and just receive the healing oxygen that the plant gives you. I would recommend you not put this in your bedroom at night, because at night, obviously, they give out carbon dioxide and take in oxygen. And so you don't want to be in a room where there's plenty of carbon dioxide. So these are some of the ways that I can suggest that we all boost our immunity. But the biggest way to boost our immunity is to just have that belief that my body is strong, my immune system is strong. I have a strong body, I am strong, I have a strong immune system. And this belief system just shifts our vibration, keeps us in that high vibration as well. And that also keeps the virus at bay. Because if we are vibrating at this level and the virus is vibrating at this level, it's going to be very, very hard for the virus to actually attach itself to you, because like attaches to like. So I would truly recommend that the first thing we do is boost our immune system, and also just have that belief system: I am strong, I have a strong immune system. The second thing that we can do is to start to create life. I shared on my Facebook page and on my Instagram page the other day about how when theatres closed during the bubonic plague in the 15th century, Shakespeare wrote 154 sonnets. Now, Shakespeare did not die during the plague. In fact, he lived on to write a little bit more, and then he died of natural causes. But the work that he breathed life into survives until today. Now, I'm sure there were times that Shakespeare was afraid during the plague. I'm sure there were times when he felt despair. I'm sure there were times when he felt okay about it all. But what he did was he channeled all that energy into his writing. During the time of restriction, especially when government restricts us from perhaps going to work, or if there's a lockdown, what happens is it will automatically shift us from our usual way of doing to being. And so it slows us down. And in a state of being, so we can open ourselves to inspiration. And inspiration is a really powerful source of energy that moves through us. And so we can choose to either channel inspiration towards anxiety and worry, or we can channel inspiration towards creating life. Now, there is no right or wrong way, but from a logical perspective, it's about thinking about it from a helpful perspective as opposed to a not very advantageous perspective. So it is so important for us to be aware of how we channel our energy. Will it help you to worry about things and to be anxious about things? Will it help you move through this pandemic with calm? Or will it help you to channel this energy towards creativity? So when we channel our energy towards creating, what we do is we are doing something quite productive, and we're doing something quite positive that we probably couldn't do before in our state of doing. So during this time, maybe we can journal, write, do some art journaling perhaps. You can go through an entire cookbook of your favorite celebrity chef, and you can master their recipes, for example, or you can bake that cake. You can go into the garden and start planting flowers and vegetables, or you can start building a shed. Do anything that makes you inspired, that enables you to create. Also, you can take this time to rest, because when we rest, our cells are rejuvenating. Our entire system is rejuvenating. So there is so much life that we're giving to our bodies when we rest. Or if you haven't read that book on your bedside table, or if you haven't had a chance to do a particular online course, perhaps, take this time and do it now. Because again, you are breathing in fresh knowledge, fresh ideas into your psyche. And this will, number one, enable the time to go quite quickly. And number two, this too shall pass. So when this wave of pandemic passes by, you have something to show for it at the other side. There is something positive you have created at the other side. And this will keep your vibrations at a high level. And again, as you are vibrating in a high level, and let's say this is the vibration of the virus, it keeps it at bay. It's all vibrational. So, breathe life and create something during this time. That is the second tip. The third tip I have is to meditate every day and go into a place of peace and calm. Why do I say this? When we meditate, one of the things that we do is we allow our cortisol levels and our adrenaline to just calm down. When we are in a state of stress, cortisol levels and adrenaline spikes. But when we are calm, cortisol levels and adrenaline go down. And when that happens, the entire body, all the other muscles and nerves and organs will get some time to regenerate. We'll have some time to heal. And when our body is not in a state of stress, it automatically becomes a much stronger body to fight off infections, and it boosts our immunity. The other thing that it does as well is it just allows us to be aligned to our inner self, and it helps us disengage a little bit from the external world, and then it enables us to respond to what's happening as opposed to react to what's happening. When we respond to what's happening, we are responding with intention. We're responding with our mental capacity. When we react to what is happening, we are being moved by our primal sense of survival, our primal sense to survive. And so we are in a much more empowered place when we respond and we act with intention as opposed to reacting for survival. When we are empowered, we keep our vibrations at a much higher level than the vibration of the virus. And again, we can keep it at bay. The fourth tip I have is to read far and wide, to expand our consciousness. According to this book, Power or Force, written by this amazing doctor, he has a scale of consciousness in his book. And he's gone through and he has measured how different emotions affect consciousness. And he has found out that the 4 emotions that lower consciousness are shame, guilt, and apathy due to helplessness, as well as fear. So anytime we are exposed to anything that makes us feel fearful, helpless, shameful, or guilt, our vibrations are being pulled down. The same will happen with any time we expel fear, helplessness, or make someone else feel helpless, make someone else feel shame, or make someone else feel guilt, and make someone else feel fearful. Again, consciousness will be pulled down. So at the end of the day, we are responsible for maintaining the level of consciousness based on our mastery of our emotions and our response. Right now, at this particular time, there is so much fear in the global consciousness, which is bringing down the vibrations of the global consciousness. A large part that is bringing down the vibrations of the global consciousness is the mass media. Because I don't know about you, but since 2016, when a lot of these changes started to take place, there have been a lot of fear. I remember in the UK when Brexit occurred, there was fear everywhere about how we're going to go to war and how the economy of Britain is going to collapse and blah, blah, blah. And then when Trump got elected, then there was so much fear about how Trump was going to start World War III and how he had the nuclear codes and how he was going to completely bring down the government and how he was going to stay a dictator. And then you had the climate change. how because of climate change, the world's going to end in 12 years. And then there was quite a lot of guilt associated with climate change, because we didn't do this or we did this, and therefore the climate is going to go down, and what's going to happen to the younger generation. And so there was a lot of guilt and shame being pumped out. And now we have the coronavirus, and there is a lot of fear around the coronavirus. So, as there is more and more stories being pumped out that's bringing about fear, guilt, shame, and even helplessness, because sometimes when there's so much fear, people don't know what to do, they're not empowered, there's helplessness. It brings the vibration of the consciousness down. So, the one thing that can empower us is to expand our own consciousness and read. Get information far and wide. Do not rely on just one area of news. Do not rely on one area of information source. At this time, there is so much information available. You get the information from alternate media, you can get information from social media. YouTube is so full of the best content that I have ever been exposed to in my life at this time. And then, of course, you also have the mass media. So I'm not saying to stop looking at mass media. I mean, if you want to, feel free. But if you still want to get your news from the mass media, please do so. But also know that there is so much news out there. And also just be aware that you are not just sitting in your echo chamber. Because the minute we are in our echo chambers, we put little blinders and blinkers on. And we're only then exposed to a very limited knowledge. Read far and wide. I have an iPad, so I get quite a lot of Apple news on my iPad, and it comes from all sorts of sources. I get Newsweek, I get National Geographic, I get Wall Street Journal, I get CNN, I get Fox, I get MSNBC. I mean, I get the whole shebang. And it's quite nice because every morning I just pick up my iPad and I click on Apple News, and then there I've got all this news. I also get news from other parts of the world. I got Hindustan Times, and I get South China Morning Post, and it's quite interesting because you can see a big shift in the global consciousness. I've been witnessing this big shift in the global consciousness just because I have access to such a wide array of news. And then I go on YouTube and I get a different perspective, and it's very, very empowering because it stops me from totally believing one thing. It enables me to think for myself. And then it enables me to completely then align with myself and see, okay, so this resonates with me and this doesn't resonate with me. So I let go of what doesn't resonate very quickly. It's a quick detachment. And I just stay with what does resonate with me. And it's very, very empowering. So I'm not reacting to what's being said. I am responding from my knowledge as well as from my own alignment, checking in with what resonates with me. And that comes from meditation. It empowers us to make choices. It enables us to be free. And that is the greatest gift we have. You can find quite a lot of interviews of some people who have recovered from this virus on YouTube. And that helps us learn how to deal with it. You can get quite a lot of information about, there was one particular story I read on Newsweek about how it affects the lungs. And they actually had CT scans of the lungs in this particular magazine. And to me, that was fascinating. Because then I can see, okay, so this is how it affects the lungs. So what can I do then to take precautionary preventive measures so that I am safe from this? The fifth thing that we have to do is manifestation. As I mentioned before, the impact that this particular virus has had on the global consciousness means that it is part of the transformation of our global consciousness as we're shifting from the old consciousness to the new consciousness. And because of this, it is going to break through and shatter quite a lot of illusions so that we can look underneath the illusions of what we have taken for granted is normal. See what doesn't work, what does work, and then build towards moving to the new consciousness with what works and perhaps some other creative ideas that come through. And so what we're doing is we're creating and we're working towards a new normal. This is what events like this, global events like this, help us do. So what do I mean by a new normal? I mean a new way of being. So let's look at this entire situation as though we're moving to a new house. When we are moving to a new house, as in moving from the old consciousness to a new consciousness, it is discombobulating. It is very chaotic. And then when we actually get to the new house, it takes some work to actually get used to the new house. You know, you have to figure out where to turn, where to work, where the switches are. You have to learn to work the plumbing system, the heating system, the AC system, you know, all the different systems that we have in our homes. So it is very confusing. There is a lot to learn. The difference between moving houses and moving to the new consciousness is that we have no idea where we're going to. When we move houses, we actually know we're going to a different place and we can make preparations. When we're moving to the new consciousness, it is an unknown. And a lot of times, as we move into an unknown, it brings about fear. Because what's going to happen? Again, our survival mechanism kicks in. It keeps us safe, our survival mechanism. The really important thing here to understand is to feel like we're empowered to create this new. This is the new consciousness. It is brand spanking new. It is a clear canvas for us to create on. And so because it's a canvas for us to create on, we can manifest what we want when we get to the new consciousness. And we can do that by manifesting. If we stay in high vibration, then we can manifest in accordance to the vibration of the new consciousness. If we manifest in fear, we are then manifesting in resonance with the old consciousness. The more we keep ourselves in a high vibrational state, the more we can start manifesting with hope and with joy as to what we wish to experience on the other side of this pandemic. At the end of the day, this too shall pass. What we see on the other side is totally dependent on ourselves. Is totally dependent on how we respond to it. So what we can do now, especially if there is a lockdown, what we can do is have a vision board. We can develop a vision board where you can put pictures or intentions and thoughts of what you want to see happen for yourself at the other side of this pandemic. So if you want to see yourself being healthy, put that image in. If you want to see yourself having created a piece of art, put that in. If you want to write books, put that in. If you want to go on holiday, put that in. If you want to be able to pay off your rent, put that in. And what we're doing is we are creating an energy to be able to come out on the other side fully empowered. Okay, but not just fully empowered, but in a solid vibrational state. The second thing to be able to do then is to also feel gratitude for what you have. Turn your attention to appreciating what you have. At the end of the day, if we go into lockdown and you have a beautiful house, then we can be grateful for that house. If we have some time to perhaps build a business, a new business on the side, then be grateful for that time. If you haven't seen your family in ages and this gives you time with your family, that is something to be grateful for as well. So the more we put ourselves in a state of gratitude for what we have, as opposed to feeling the fear of what is out there, then what we do is we are increasing our vibrations. We are raising our vibrations as well. And as we lift our vibration and keep our vibrational state at quite a high level, that is in dissonance with that of the virus, again, there are more chances that it keeps the virus at bay. And these are all precautionary methods. Of course, if you do feel ill, then I would suggest that you follow medical advice as well. There are still plenty of precautions out there in China, and of course for ourselves we need to be sensible and we too need to take precautions. I would follow the advice of the scientific and the medical community for this. But just know that this too shall pass. And we can choose to go through this period in a comfortable, calm way. Or we can go through this period in relative discomfort, anxiety, and worry. Of course, there is no right or wrong, and it's best to choose the path that helps us more, that suits us more. As always, the choice is entirely ours. To help with this, what I wanted to do is to offer some of my meditations for free for a limited time. So if you go onto my website, www.reenakumarasingham.com, and go to the shop page, I will try and include the link down below. You will see 3 meditations that are listed for free. These meditations are for peace and relaxation. There will be a meditation for prosperity and gratitude. This will help us get into a state of gratitude and appreciation for what we have. And then there is a third meditation for protection. With this particular meditation, it's all about clearing and cleaning our chakras. In case there are any unwanted and unneeded fragments that's blocking our particular chakras during this time. These 3 have been chosen in particular to help keep our vibration level up and also to help move with peace and calm and in a state of gratitude so we can start pumping out hope and gratitude into the global consciousness. So I really hope that you've enjoyed this video, and I thank everybody for your attention. If you have felt that this video has been particularly helpful, please feel free to share it. And if you would like to know more about high vibration living in the new consciousness, all you have to do is to press that subscribe button below. Thank you for your attention. Stay healthy and safe, everyone. I'll see you soon.